Hi, so our project is EventEdge, and I think we're going to get started and just introduce ourselves.
Hi, my name is Farhan. I'm currently a junior studying computer science at NYU Tandon. I have an interest in driving simulators, and prior to this class, I've had fundamental knowledge of React, Node.js, HTML, CSS, nothing too advanced though.
Hello, I'm Julius. I'm a junior at CAS, majoring in computer science. One of my unusual interests is in Soviet architecture and its obnoxious remnants in Eastern Europe. And prior to this class, I had a year of professional experience working with React Native.
Hi, my name is Isfar, and I'm currently a junior studying CS at NYU Tandon. And an unusual interest I have is owning movies or TV shows on disc, even though the world has moved on to streaming. And I have some prior experience. I had some prior experience with React.js, Node.js, RESTful architecture, and databases. And that's a little bit about me.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm currently a junior majoring in CS at CAS. My interests outside include fashion and its intersection with modern technology. And I would have very much considered myself a beginner at the beginning of this project, but I did have some prior knowledge, including React.js, Node.js, Nest.js, and some other web development tools.
My name is Mohammed. I'm a junior at Tandon. My unusual interest is watching films or TV shows from other countries. I have prior experience in Node and SQL, and I know some beginner JavaScript, HTML, and CSS at the start of this semester from YouTube videos.
All right, so now I'm going to dive in and just explain what EventEdge is. And the problem that we really wanted to tackle with EventEdge is just the fact that so many people, especially in these semi-virtual times, get their plans mixed up. When people make plans, some people fall through, sometimes get mixed up. And we just wanted to create a chat-based event planner where you can keep all of your events and chat groups all organized. And with EventEdge, you can make as many chats and events as you'd like. And you make an event based on the chat group you're in. And when you make an event, it sends invites to everyone else in that chat, and they can either accept or decline events, and everyone can keep track of their schedules that way.
So when we started thinking about EventEdge, we sort of took our own experiences into consideration. Our target audience were groups that wanted to create events, and they were medium-sized, as in certain problems we wanted to address and solve don't really pertain to small groups with 4 to 5 people, or very large groups that have 4 to 5 people only organizing the entire event. But rather it's for groups that have 10 to maybe 30 people. And the problems that we were referring to include the tendency of plans getting confusing or bad distribution of information. And there were often times when our friends and us organize events and some people can maybe forget the address, or maybe they forget the items they have to bring, some being required items to gain admission to the event, or maybe food items. So the need that our idea fills is basically getting rid of that lack of consistency when it comes to planning with medium-sized groups. With our app, users can have a list of events, chats pertaining to those events, details about that specific event, what they're supposed to bring, and so on. It fills the void of having no social media yet that seamlessly integrates messaging and event generating.
So as for our initial features and what we plan to implement, so users would be able to register and log in, and after that, they would have 2 overall categories / aspects of the app. So there's the chats aspect and then the events aspect. Under chats, a user could view a list of all the group chats they are in, and then they could create a chat. And after navigating to a particular chat, next slide, please. So on the right, as you can see, after navigating to a particular chat, they would have the option to send chat messages, and as well as navigate to 4 other modals using the buttons on top, So with one button, they could add people to this group chat. They could create an event for this group chat. They could view the events of this group chat. And they could also, lastly, view the members of this group chat, which that mode would also include a leave chat button. And another thing about a group chat page is there would be the latest event, like a pinned latest event. As you can see, it says latest event at the top. And as for events, the events, a user could navigate to their events page, which would list all their events. And then after they see the list of their events, they could go click a button that will navigate them to the chat that the particular event is associated with. And at the top of that page, as you can see on the left, there's also a button for pending events, which they can go to and either accept or decline pending events. And as for features that we did not implement the first button on the chats page, adding people to a group chat. And we also did not add the pinned event on each for a particular group chat, just because we had run out of time.
So for the system, in the front end, we use Socket.io for chats, and also React Conducts API for managing global states such as toast, modals, and auth, or authentication. And we also use CSS modules, which is, by the way, not a package, but a native feature that enables you to scope out styles so that you don't make a mess in your front-end directories. And we also use Access for data fetching. And in the backend, we use Socket.io for chats. We use Joy for data validation. And we use bcrypt for hashing passwords. And as far as testing goes, we use MongoDB memory server to mock our Mongo database. So now I will share my screen and I will show you the live demo of the application. So we can go ahead and see this is our landing page of the app. So now I will demonstrate you how to register to the website. So let's say I will use some arbitrary login name. So as I registered, as you can see, I instantly got authenticated, and the JVT token is now stored in the local storage. And so I can log out and the token will be deleted. So now I can log in with some other account. So now I'm authenticated again. If we refresh the page, the authentication data is persisted. So I'm logged in the chat or in the website. So now I will show you the chat. So if I navigate to chat, I can see all the chat messages, and all the chat messages are stored in the database. So whenever you send the chat message, it will be stored in the database, and it will be retrieved to the chat every time you open it. So pressing on members, you can see all the members in the chat, and from this tab you can leave the chat. So now I will show you, if we go, for example, to this chat room, if I will send a message from a different account, let's say I send the message hello there, the chat will scroll to that latest message. It's a nice feature and it looks cool, and yeah. And so from the chat, we can also navigate to events, and we can see all the accepted events in this page. And from there on, we can also navigate to the chat that this event is related to. So again, I went back to the chat that this event was related to, and I can also create an event. So let's say I will create an event that is called best event ever, and I will select some date, and I'll select some time, and I'll say it's New York City, and I will also post some dummy text for description. And here you go, there's a toast notification. I created the event. Now I can go to the events. I can go to pending events, and I can decline some and accept some events that I am associated with. So let's say I accept this event, I decline this event, and I decline this event. So as you can see, we are actually doing optimistic updates. We're updating the state in the application, and we predict that the data will be saved in the database, and we show the expected result on the front end. And so the events array was also the event state was also optimistically updated, and the new events that were accepted were added to it. So that's about it with our demo, and we can continue on with the presentation.
So despite the amount of progress that we've made in features, there were definitely challenges that we faced. And here I've outlined like three huge major challenges that we had. First is during the database sprints when we had to implement unit tests. One huge problem was trying to figure out how to implement user authentication for the endpoints that required user authentication. Ultimately, we found out that the way to resolve that was to create use actual passport tokens that could be used for each endpoint that requires user authentication. Deployment was also a huge issue because there were some problems with configuration, and ultimately we found out that the reason why the app wasn't loading on the slash route was because the app that we cloned was in the wrong location. It was in the home directory instead of another directory, and we had to actually move it to another directory, which was the var directory. Finally, Soccer.io was a challenge. Initially, old messages from different chats would be displayed on new chats that we would navigate to. And replicating Soccer.io in unit tests was also a problem. For those two problems, we ended up resolving them primarily through like a huge amount of team collaboration, as well as looking at the documentation at Soccer.io's website.
In terms of expectations, I think we all had a pretty realistic view on how much energy and also like knowledge we could put in. I think at every sprint, we were able to really communicate with each other well and talk about our different levels of knowledge and different levels of preparation and learning needed. I know that some of us had to put in more effort into just like learning and reading the documentation than others because it was our first time working with some of these development tools. And others were able to dedicate more time to helping other people learn and with their issues because of the learning curve. And I think in general, we were really realistic in terms of just our dedication of time and knowledge.
For me, learning how to deploy on DigitalOcean was a huge piece of technical growth. Prior to this class, I've learned how to deploy using Heroku. And what I can say is that the process on deploying using Heroku is much different from that for in DigitalOcean. Nevertheless, learning how to deploy on DigitalOcean was a very eye-opening experience. It was good to know how to use like droplets and Nginx combined to deploy an application.
I think for me, one of the most important things I learned was just a lot about unit tests and their functionalities and purposes. While I was writing these unit tests, I really did like hone in my critical thinking skills and just consider all of the edge cases. And I think I learned a lot from my team members when I was doing this. And then in terms of its purpose, I really learned why they're so beneficial, because if me or my team member wanted to add in a new feature or just change something about an existing feature, these tests would be there to help prove their functionalities, whether it was a failure or a success.
Also for me and probably for the rest of the team, continuous integration, learning about continuous integration was a pretty good experience. It was just fun to tweak it and see how to make your particular test suite work on it. And we also saw the instant benefits of having it, as when we would push some not working code to the database, we would instantly see that the CI is failing, and so we need to do some change. So that was pretty cool.
For me personally, I was able to learn and use MongoDB for the first time and React for the first time.
So we all learned how to work with the Agile framework. And personally, I found all the project management that can be done on GitHub with an Agile mindset to be interesting. In the past, I would use and recognize GitHub as just a place to save my files. But now I've gotten exposure to pull requests, code reviews, working on branches, merging, which I've found to be quite valuable. Besides GitHub, I think it was interesting to learn how to organize a project when it comes to its file structure. We modularized our code, and that helped with the unit tests because we were able to replicate and create instances of certain bits of our code and only test those specific parts of the code. And certain designs had certain pros and cons, which was also very interesting to see.
And personally, some of the other things that I found interesting was the kind of organizational things we had done, such as the routes and controllers, that abstraction. And another abstraction Julius had done in the front end was making services for data fetching, which I thought was pretty cool and interesting.
So all in all, I think we all enjoyed this course, and we actually try to follow the agile methodology pretty closely. We would not skip any stand-ups, and usually after daily stand-ups, we would even have like tangents to like study sessions where we try to discuss certain aspects of the application and like share our concerns. So I think we had pretty good communication between each of us. And yeah, thank you for the course, and it was enjoyable.